Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode here. And today I have two guests with me from Central Europe, Germany, Ken and Tom. And today we will be talking about movies. I brought these two people because I know they're obsessed and they're also tracking what they're watching usually. And yeah, so let's just start and we will take turns. Obviously, Ken and Tom, like, what was your how was your way into the movie scene? Or like, let's start with a different question. If you talk about culture, what's movie culture to you?
You want to start?
Well, for me, movie culture would be just spending the evening watching something. I'm not into the cinema culture that we probably had before the pandemic stronger and that is currently recovering. But for me, it was mostly spending the evenings watching something.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know like about normal general movie culture, but I used to watch a lot in the evenings. And these days, if it's a good movie, like with the Dune movies, I still go to the theater. It's better to watch it on the big screen. But otherwise, I just look for new releases that are interesting to me and or other things that are hyped. And yeah, just watch it, look if it's something for me.
So, so from the answers, so you guys are telling me basically that the term culture is quite relative, right?
I guess.
Yeah, depends.
I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
there's a lot of like indie movie events for like art movies and stuff, but I don't participate in stuff like that. So, yeah.
By indie movies, you mean those alternative ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, you sometimes find from the university or from smaller creators short movies or like art house movies, which are more movies that often come from France. I don't know, like the smaller movies or specific to a certain topic. And then there's normally like a event on a weekend somewhere. I don't go to those things. So yeah.
So, what's your reason that you're not going to them? Is it like the storyline boring, or is it like the perspectives?
The movies are most of the time just not for me. It's not the type of movie I'm interested in. And the whole culture around it, yeah, it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, but is it more like the way they record the perspectives, the videos, the scenes, the photographs? You know what I mean? Or is it more these are just dull and not really challenging?
Mm. I don't like from the genre, I don't like most of the topics, and I'm not a big fan of smaller creations. For some people, it's quite interesting seeing new producers starting movies, but most of the times, if you see a lot of movies, you see a lot of mistakes. Hard for me to enjoy them. And talking to the people that go there, they're interested in something different than from the mainstream movies. So it works for them. But I'd rather just talk to another movie buff and have like a huge palette of watch movies you can talk about. With those kind of movies, since I'm not big into the topics, I just can't even really talk with the guys there. So yeah, it doesn't do it for me.
Ken, what's your opinion? And you guys don't have to always wait. You want to make remarks to each other? Yeah, you can feel free.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I agree with the point that I'm also not into the culture of joining those evenings where you have literally hours and hours of wasted time just in order to enjoy a 10-minute short movie. I actually had some experience like that in Los Angeles where we went to some premiere. It was, I think, around the area of the Chinese theater, somewhere on the Hollywood Boulevard. And we spent the whole evening into the night there just to watch a movie that was maybe 15 minutes. And I don't even remember what it was about, but it was definitely not worth it spending the whole evening there just for that thing. For me, it's not worth spending the time around the movie, but just watching something to spend your evening.
I kind of feel like, and I agree also with you guys, like I've seen some like festivals in summers where when you go to the parks and grab drinks, then usually they show indie movies, I guess, right? Like very short ones. And I was never excited by that either because
Yeah.
it's very short and like I don't think people mainly, I don't know, like maybe the events you guys talked about, maybe people went mainly for those, but sometimes I feel like they're trying to make the indie movies a nice side thing that you can get when you go to like, leisure activities in parks.
Yeah, I
As
mean,
a fun activity, maybe
Yeah.
it is suitable, but not as an individual or like the main dish of the whole event.
yeah, I see it the same. Like with those, I mean, I've been to a couple because friends wanted to go, and the thing is always it helps indie producers, smaller producers, and regisseurs and whatnot to like get in the limelight, get a bit of exposure. So the events are a great thing, and people going there is a good thing, but it's like 70-80% miss rate with those movies. So most of the times you go there, you snack something, talk to friends, and then you watch something really mediocre. So yeah.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, I'm not a big fan of concerts because usually people go there 2-3 hours earlier. Then they have a show of 45 minutes or 60, you tell me. And then you have to get out again and go home for 1 or 2 hours. I think indie movies is on a smaller scale comparable to that kind of experience.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if you guys also watch shorts on YouTube, for example. It's much more interesting. In my case, like when you eat lunch or something at home and you're alone and you just need something to watch, then I often go on YouTube and look for some short movies that I didn't see yet. And it is enjoyable sometimes that the content that is usually stretched onto full 1.5 to 2 hour movie can be also brought over in a small compact package within 10 to 15 minutes. And there are actually quite some interesting ones on YouTube. I could maybe recommend you guys. For example, there's a channel, it's called, I think, Omeletto. I'm not sure. Omeletto. That one I really enjoy watching. There are often like also regularly short movies with deep topics, but very kept short, and it gives you more to think than to see.
I actually didn't know that was a thing. I thought you were talking about the regular short videos, but now I'm surprised. Yeah.
I think they are called shorts. I'm not sure whether we can call them movies, but I think if you
Yeah, but
mention
You're talking about
they
like
are
10 minutes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's definitely different kind of thing you're talking about because the regular shorts, YouTube or Instagram, and the others have is like 60 or 90 seconds videos.
You know, he's talking.
Okay, no,
I mean,
that's the new definition, I think, of
yeah,
TikTok times, because when you go on shorts on YouTube, they're like 10 to 15 minutes actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then I didn't know. Okay. Yeah. Then I mean, if they keep extending that, I think also again, right? Like sometimes.
Yeah, but like he's actually no, like I stumbled upon it like 4 or 5 years ago. There are a lot of uploaded short movies, and they're, as you said, like 10 to 15 minutes. Some of them are actually like from events, so they could be like a 10-minute short animated movie or 10-minute normal short movie. You can find quite a lot. I don't know about that channel. I always stumbled upon them like through the algorithm, and they often have deeper topics, but quite interestingly made. And the way they use the short time is always quite interesting. But those are like the ones that kind of made it. So they're the bigger ones or more interesting ones. So and there's not a whole event around it. 10 minutes,
So-
you watch it, it's good or bad.
Exactly.
How do you? I mean, if you have no remarks, how do you usually explore new movies? Is it like through YouTube as a medium, or do you also like cross-click through websites like IMDb?
Well, both in some sense, and we could also say that I'm not looking for a movie, but just watch the next best thing that I stumble upon. There are also, of course, instances where I actively look for a movie because I have nothing to watch and all the interesting stuff I already watched. So, yeah, it depends. There is cases the one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yes. For me, I tried to stop watching movies on my own like a couple of years ago because I've been keeping track how many I've watched on IMDb, and the number is too high for me, so I'm trying to keep it a bit lower. I normally stumble up.
Currently, how high is the number?
Okay, my watch list has 253 movies on it, and the watched or rated movies are at 1,175.
Ha! I'm over 1,400 already.
So
Maybe I should slow it down.
we're talking about the IMDb watch lists and ratings, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Which does not count long series, for example, or shorts you can't rate, and a lot of movies actually you can't rate. But yeah, the ones I mainly rate them because otherwise I forget the movies that I watched 10 years ago, and sometimes I realize it halfway into the movie and I know how it will play out, so I lose the fun watching the rest and regret watching the first half.
You cannot rate series, or what can you not rate? I didn't get that.
You can, but watching a long series would be also counted as just one rating, and it would be like watching maybe 100 hours or so. I don't know.
So do you guys think IMDb like forgot an important feature there, or did they on purpose leave it out?
Actually, you can also rate single episodes of series, but
okay.
I mean,
who does?
It would be interesting to see time spent, but I think the statistic would be for Movie Bus quite negative, because if there was a website where you could put down everything you saw and it would calculate the time you used to watch movies, and if that number keeps rising, I don't know, it has a bad feeling for me. So I think it's fine they don't write the time. Yeah, like if you're somebody who watches a lot of TV shows with like 10 seasons or something, your number might be lower, but the time you spent watching might be higher. Yeah.
And I don't think generally people are comparing their IMDb rating list, but it would also not work on people who, sometimes it happens also to me, I watch season or maybe the second one, but then I lose interest in a series and don't continue with season number 3, 4, 5. So if someone rates series based on the first 2 or 3 seasons, or just the first season, then it would also not calculate the watch time correctly.
True, yeah. I think like for me it was the same as for you, Ken, with I wanted to keep track of what I watched and what I didn't watch, because sometimes even with movies that get released 3 or 4 years later, there might be a lawsuit and they change the name. So you stumble upon the same movie with a different name and cover, and you start watching it, and then you realize, oh wait, I saw this one already. So I started just recording what I watched and rated it. So now I can always, like, if somebody asks, hey, did you see this movie? Just scroll through, see if I saw it, and decide if I want to join watching a movie or not. And I think with like the features, because you said like just watch the first season and then like maybe didn't watch the rest, websites like Mal, which are like for rating animes, are better with that. They have, I don't know, like stopped watching after second season or still want to watch. They're a bit more specific with stuff like that.
So, like, what was the last movie you guys watched?
Yeah.
Let me check my rating.
Okay, let me tell you then. So friends of mine asked me if I want to join in for Dune 2, but I hadn't seen Dune 1. So they just booked the tickets, and on the day, on the evening, we were supposed to watch Dune 2, and I started watching Dune 1 before it. So Dune 2 was the last thing I believe I saw.
Okay, in my case, it was Roadhouse.
Which sounds also like an action movie, right?
Yes, it is. I think currently on Netflix. I watched it probably on Netflix, and it is a fighting movie.
Oh, okay.
And like, I don't know, like how did you guys find those movies? Without, I mean, yeah, like without being too political and just like, yeah, you get the point.
Well, it was a Netflix movie, and it was on the main page on Netflix when I opened.
I just wanted to ask you that. Like, do you go sometimes on Netflix and be like, okay, I'm gonna watch the first movie, because I'm somebody who's like really picky, and if I see, hey, this sounds interesting, I just can't resist checking the IMDb ratings and see if the rating is like half decent. If it's not good,
Yes.
I'm just not gonna watch it.
Yes, I actually do that because I made the experience that you should more or less trust the IMDb rating. Of course, not 100%. It's sometimes like 70% for me. There are actors, some who have usually lower IMDb ratings that they deserve, in my opinion. So I always know how to scale their IMDb rating. But when there's, let's say, a relatively unknown actor or an actor that I know gets usually his ratings due to his name whatsoever, I rate them accordingly with my own scale. But in general, let's say 70% the IMDb rating is right when it comes to the entertainment factor of a movie. And for example, Roadhouse, when I watched it, of course I saw it on Netflix, but I had it on my watch list before that on IMDb. I don't know which one gave me the impulse to watch it, but I just watched it since I had nothing else that day.
All right.
Do you guys know by heart which criteria IMDb uses to rate the movies, or is it just simple like then just like?
It's people rating it. It's a lot of movie people rating it, and then they average it as much as I remember.
So it's only based on users rating, right? Then no other criteria. Okay.
I think there is some professionals, actually film critics, that also rate, and I'm not sure whether their rating is evaluated or like stronger or less strong, but you can also separate the ratings on IMDb, as far as I know, into professionals and just everyday users. So I don't know, back in the day you were able to do that. I'm not sure if it's still like that.
I didn't know that.
You can categorize the ratings into male and female, and also into age classes. So you can see whether a movie has been liked by kids more, or by older people more, or by men or women more. Obviously, when you watch, let's say, an action movie, you have generally a better rating from men than women. And when you watch a romance flick, you get a better rating from women on that movie. So you can also see whether, if you're, let's say, a guy who likes action movies without any romance, you can subdivide the ratings into men and women and see how the men rated that movie, or people from your age class. Sometimes a movie is very childish, an action movie, but very childish, and you don't like that, so you can see how the different age classes rated that movie. And
man,
if you see that,
I just Deadpool popped up in my eyes. Well, it's an amazing movie.
I watched the first one. Not sure about the other ones.
And the other ones were also funny, as far as I remember.
I think there's a new one coming soon.
Yeah, with Wolverine.
Oh yeah, right. That was yeah. I think I'm gonna watch it, like, as long as the rating is not insanely low, because they were kind of entertaining and funny. So sure.
Man, I'm gonna tell you guys a short story. When I was in Australia, Western Australia, Perth. During the week, I was close to the biggest shopping mall of the city, and during the week when I was handing out CVs on site, walking around in the mall. After I was like quite bored. It was the time when it was 40 degrees Celsius, And then I just decided, okay, what do? I go to the movie. So I bought a student ticket. I don't remember the price. I think it was decent, $15-16 probably. Then I went to watch a Beekeeper. I don't know if you guys heard about it.
With Jason Statham. Yes, I
Yeah,
watched it.
it was an amazing movie, dude. I went into the cinema hall, and then I'm waiting for it to start. It's like 10 minutes, then it's 5 minutes, and I look around. Dude, no one was in the room, man. I watched the movie completely by myself. Like no one in a city of 2-3 million. Like I don't know. Like I was the only one watching Beekeeper on my own. I don't know if it's a sign by God somehow, but like it was a good movie. And yeah, like I thought, okay, it's just gonna be a dull, stupid action movie, but I feel like the storyline was quite good. Yeah.
It's on my watch list. Still have to watch it.
Yeah, but can you watch it, right?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, well, what was your opinion?
I generally like Jason Statham movies. Sometimes, of course, he overplays his card and takes on roles that are actually, let's say, not very well written. And the producers probably think that just by the name Jason Statham and just by his image, they can sell it. But Beekeeper was actually quite good and entertaining. I actually one of the more likable Jason Statham movies.
Yeah, it reminded me a little of, and you tell me the title because I cannot think of it. The movie where Keanu Reeves is the hitman that goes around,
John Wick.
John Wick, yeah, it a little reminded me of John Wick Beekeeper, but I don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah, well, Jason Statham was John Wick before John Wick, in my opinion. So before Keanu Reeves, I mean, I think he first got into that type of role with Transporter, probably, and
Yeah.
then he's playing the same character over and over, and it works. I mean, it suits him.
Yeah, but like that's one of the issues I always use with action movies. Like I used to watch a lot of Jason Statham movies with a lot of the older action actors. You have, as you said, like producers thinking, hey, if we get this actor, we're gonna sell it, no matter how bad the movie might be. You had a lot of the last couple of movies from Bruce Willis and
Nicolas Cage, you can add to the list.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage, same thing. And one of the things I find sad is the actor from Undisputed 2. What was his name? Atkins?
Scott Atkins.
Yeah, he gets like, I think he gets a lot of, like the last I saw from him, they were all kind of like, all right, not that great from the storyline. And the dude is actually quite good actor. So I think with a lot of action actors, they just get bad roles sometimes.
Yeah, some people are just not in the correct, let's say, in the correct sect at Hollywood. They don't have the best connections to get some certain roles. I mean, maybe he doesn't have the best friends and producers who back him up. I mean, he was also in the talks for Batman, if I remember correctly, and then later Ben Affleck got chosen, and it was obvious that they will not choose Scott Atkins, though maybe tens or hundreds of thousands of people signed for him, petitions, because he can fight. He can fill the role with actual fighting scenes, and people still criticize that they don't see him as Bruce Wayne since he was not the whatsoever. But the guy has the British accent. He is British.
Yeah.
He would totally fit into the role. But yeah, he's probably not in that Hollywood clique where you have to be if you want to get some prime roles.
Yeah. I mean, at Batman, he would have been dope. Like, dude is good looking. He would have played the role good.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in LA, I trained with Michael J. White, for example. And those guys are not just focused on the movies, like trying to make new movies and just movies and so on. They make generally movies with action scenes, with fighting, and sometimes even about the martial art. But they are actually training in their lives, not just for the movies, but they are training. So they are fighters, they are athletes. They know what they're doing when they make a roundhouse kick or some technique in any way. They don't need stuntmen or any stunt doubles whatsoever. That is probably also the downside for them, because they are more focused onto fighting and less focused on Hollywood and the stuff that you probably have to do in order to be in the big game.
So it reminds me also like of Jackie Chan, right? Who's actually putting in the effort to do a lot himself, and the fight scenes, it's more original and authentic.
Yeah, I think Jackie Chan came generally more early. I mean, the earlier you are in the business, the more you can establish yourself, and the more you will actually be like on the hierarchy. But even when you look at Jackie Chan, the movies that he was in were also getting smaller and smaller in scale. I mean, Jackie Chan was not in those billion-dollar movies anymore. Like,
Yeah, but like, I mean, the dude has what, over 1,000 movies on his page. I think he acted in 1,000 movies, so, and he's quite old, so maybe he just takes it slower.
but also during his prime, he was not really in the very big productions that you would see, like the current teeny stars with Dune or Spider-Man or the whole Marvel universe.
Oh yeah,
is revolving around teeny stars, also enforced politics and so on. You have to currently include everyone and everything and all the genders and all the races into any movie. So you don't have this classical, like, where a star carries a big production. Big productions are too big for today's stars, and you need more smaller, underrepresented people. So it's a different world we're currently in. Jackie Chan was in the, I don't know, 80s, 90s, probably in those years in bigger productions. And I'm not sure whether he actually set good foot in Hollywood, because I think his movies were also mainly produced in Asia. The earlier ones,
yeah,
at least. And the later
yeah.
ones,
He was hot on the tails of Bruce Lee. Like after Bruce Lee, well, after he died, people were looking for the next big thing, and he grew up with the slapstick, the kung fu, Hong Kong scene. So he was just pushed into that limelight. But he had trouble. I think there are also interviews where he talks about it to like break through from Asia to Hollywood.
yeah, I mean, you need acceptance. After Bruce Lee, there were a lot of people getting into it, like Jet Li, Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Then on the European side, you had people like Jean-Claude Van Damme. And the difference between the Asian and the European side was generally that the Asians actually practiced martial arts and did the fighting, while the Westerners, let's say it that way, were mainly actors or athletes, but not martial artists per se. So they presented themselves as martial artists by being bodybuilders and even dancers. And that also gave the Asian scene the upper hand in fighting movies. But currently it's more into too much anime, like too much special effects and computer effects and so on. So that time has passed for the actors, unfortunately.
You guys, that reminded me, you should watch it if you haven't. On Netflix, there was a documentary also about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do you know?
Which one?
Like, I watched some episodes on Netflix about the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger and also his competition with, like, he's called Rambo, right? The guy.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, like these kinds of things they were like showing. They were also telling the story of how Arnold Schwarzenegger grew up like in Austria in a small town, as far as I remember, and he always wanted to get out into the world. Like they're telling a nice story on Netflix.
All right.
Well, if they're telling anything on Netflix, it's always nice stories. Otherwise, they would not tell it. I think there are too many Schwarzenegger documentaries in order for, like, I mean, you have a documentary for every group. Let's say you have bodybuilders, they want to see different aspects of his life than the general public. So usually the documentaries that you see on Netflix are meant for the general public, and also with the certain flavoring of,
Yeah, like
the
I hope the series I mean is on Netflix. It could be also a different platform. So correct me if I'm wrong. But the thing I watched, the good thing was like Arnold was telling the story himself. It was kind of like an interview, and then they were showing like scenes or images and other stuff. So it was really like guided interview documentary kind of.
Okay.
All right.
Also it's quite like inspirational because also many of the episodes revolve around obviously like his gym and athlete lifestyle. And yeah, I think it's nice. But I wanted to insert a different topic also about like talking about those action movies and fighter movies. The first time in my life I watched like I think plus minus half a year ago Fight Club, man. And like I never wanted to watch it because everyone was saying Fight Club, and I thought the title Fight Club, it sounds super boring, like people fight in a cage or something. But it was actually more than that. So I urge everyone who hasn't watched it to watch it. But with that also together, like I want to ask both of you, like what you think the message of Fight Club was. And one of my
You're
friends,
breaking it currently.
What?
You are currently breaking number one rule of Fight Club.
Yeah, I don't talk about it. But like, no, to bring the message to the people even more, and like, let's look at the good sides. Yeah, like, well, what do you think was the message, and what can be drawn? Is there anything to interpret, or is it completely about? One of my friends from Singapore, he said it revolves around nihilism. Also, what's your view?
Well, I can water it down to the era of the movie. Maybe, I mean, it's been quite a while since I watched Fight Club, so I might be a little bit wrong on that, but there was a time when movies with deep plot twists always had the same excuse, the same argument, the same scenario. I mean, you have Fight Club, Shutter Island, and countless other movies where you have this kind of plot twist in it. And I don't want to spoil anyone here, but it is leading to similar or the same kind of pattern. And we had that pattern in Fight Club, also similar thing in Shutter Island, also in movies like Identity, or many other movies of those years had that thing. And when you look at current movies, there is a similar thing going on, which is called the multiverse. So you always have this plot twist, and the plot twist is basically bringing dead people back due to the multiverse or time travel, things like that. So quantum this, that, and multiverse is like currently in, and all the movies that are currently being produced, especially Hollywood, Marvel, DC, everything jump on it. And back in the day when you didn't have this action movie blooming, you had these crime stories or action movies like Fight Club, as I said, Shutter Island, which involved or revolved around that certain plot twist. And maybe I'm spoiling it by saying it's like often schizophrenia, multi-personality thing, and so on. So I'm not sure whether it was intentional that they had this deeper meaning. Maybe it was interpreted in afterwards, but it was a nice plot twist. I can just say that. And I liked, in general, the attitude, the two personalities, and their attitude towards each other.
Yeah, I think for me it's been over 10 years since I watched Fight Club, but from what I remember, it's like nihilism. Yeah, I guess it would work. It's quite antisocial. Society is like bad, and the message was like political and a bit like, yeah, I mean, kind of like I would water it down to like political and society's bad. The movie's good.
I mean,
I mean,
well, we can also like you can continue, but like we can also give the core message, or not core message. I mean, like a core recap of what the movie is about. So don't be afraid of that. I don't think we're spoiling it in that sense too much. Yeah.
yeah, no, like I remember bits and pieces. I wouldn't even be able to like pull it together. I just remember like the scenes and everything. And the movie, as you said, like the personality thing, the guy having like the whole deep thing, but connection with himself. Like the movie is good. It's interesting, and of course, it's a creation of its time. With the current like superhero movies, I don't watch them. I get it with the economical side of movies. They are safe bets. You produce a movie that's based on 3 other movies that people saw, so you can extend it and make people go into it, and you know it's at least gonna sell a certain amount of tickets. So but like the whole capitalization of the industry, like I mean, always been about money, but like it going hard right now into one direction is what made interesting movies disappear, because a lot of interesting ideas don't get picked up anymore in Hollywood because they are not safe bets. And I don't think like movies like Fight Club would be produced these days anymore. If somebody would show up with a script like that, it would be like, it could go wrong. The reviews could be bad. People could take it as slander on mental health or something. So I don't think that would work anymore.
I agree on that thing, on that quote, that producers and also actors and the whole film scene in general is avoiding any kind of unsafe or, let's say, critical topics and anything that could be offensive in any way. So if you're offensive currently, you are offensive against the conservative white men, but you're not allowed to be offensive against any other group, so, or political, religious, or whatsoever group. And that also leads to movies being watered down, being more meant for a much wider audience, and having less of the spice as they had back in the day.
Yeah, big thing with that as well. Like most people's gonna realize it with, since a lot of movies get sold to China or India, you're gonna have also more inclusion of Chinese ethnics or Indian ethnics, or they're gonna look.
Not just that, they literally have their own people sitting in the studios and working on the production of those movies. And back in the day, it was China heavily. Currently, India is doing the same thing. You have they're literally financing also those movies, and they are putting a lot of effort in it to like also change narratives, be it their political view, perspective, and so on, or the representation of their people in those movies changes over time. When you look at movies from the 90s, you see a complete different picture of Chinese or Indian people in the movies than it is when you look at it now. Suddenly they become the unsung heroes in the later movies, while they were just side characters in the earlier ones.
Yeah. Yes, you said, like, I know, like, China, if they don't like the movie, they're not going to let it into the market. So you're going to sell a lot less. So they just decide, hey, if it could offend them politically, they just don't do it anymore. But if you think about it, around 80s or 90s, I believe it was, they still had white people playing Chinese. So for them, it's like, you could one side see it as more tolerant, but they just, like always, just followed the money and decided, hey, we're going to take it. If they don't want it in the movie, just gonna cut it out and things. And on the other hand, like Hollywood is really lazy also with like remakes. You have, I think, another Ghostbusters coming up. And I mean, they rebooted it once, they rebooted it again with women, and now they're rebooting it again with the next generation or something. So another thing to keeping everything economically was doing a lot of the same things again and again. And to be more inclusive in those movies, changing men for women instead of creating new ideas.
Yeah, it's become a thing.
I just wanna, before we continue, make a side note to the audience also. Like we all here in the show on this episode, we come from multicultural backgrounds. So if we're talking about white men are being depicted like this or that, blah blah blah, it's not because we're coming from that culture, but we come from a multicultural background. And just a side note,
Yeah. So we're allowed to be racist. Just
something like that.
Yeah, but the thing with China also, like, it's not just China. Like, if you look at many different countries, whether it's like Middle East or like Asia in general, or even some countries in Europe. So I don't want to like list certain countries. I'm not blaming anyone because I really want to be able to freely travel anywhere. So no criticism towards the governments, but like just talking in general, it's not just one country. I think if you look at the countries, it's more than 20, 30 or 40 countries globally.
Yeah, but I mean, it also was a meme like 2 or 3 years ago. Every time a movie goes to Mexico, it's orange, it's yellow, because like if you don't sell a lot of movies or your country's not economically too interesting, they won't care about depicting heavy stereotypes. And since you don't have any influence, I mean, a lot of Middle Eastern countries get shown in the same way with the same music, the same kind of like deserty area, because it's easy for people to associate it and see it. And they don't sell any movies anywhere there.
What do you mean by red and orange?
it was. You could literally see a yellow filter over the scenes that played in Mexico.
Yeah. I saw that too. Yeah, it's a funny thing. Do they still do it or not?
Less.
Yeah.
Because I mean, because it got pointed out, and they were like, okay, maybe we should stop with it. But you still can see it in the movie Cesario and Cesario 2. They were really good movies, but like they crossed the border from south of the US to Mexico, and suddenly we have this like orange, yellowy tint.
But like
by the way,
another
the same
fun
thing
fact
happened to me. The same thing happened to me a few days ago. I crossed the border from Germany to Switzerland. That's a funny story. And suddenly it was yellow. And it was so weird that suddenly everything, the sky and the landscape, everything was just yellow. And I told my wife, hey, Switzerland is somehow more yellow than Germany. And we actually kept that belief until we read the news that there was some sort of sandstorm from Africa coming over the Mediterranean to Europe. And that was the reason.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it was like Sahara sand getting swept up, and even in Germany everything went yellow and every like car was dusty. But it didn't happen where I was, like in Munich.
Yeah, but like another fun fact from me also, talking about the filters that depict Mexico sometimes as yellow or orangish. But like usually it's American movies that do it, right? And like the fun fact is like that most movies are being shot in Seattle or like not Seattle, but like in Canada, right? Like usually many American movies have been shot there also.
But let's be racist again. Some Americans don't know how it is abroad, so when they try to make movies about those regions, they probably don't know how they could make Seattle look like Mexico, so they put a yellow filter.
I mean, not that. Some movies that depict New York, for instance, like are being shot in Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah, because it's a cleaner version of New York. So but they have been doing it since the 90s. Also, like from the time I lived in New York, I talked to the movie guys that I saw on the street, and apparently actually recording movies and closing down whole blocks is insanely expensive. So going to Canada and people's not going to see a difference, except it's a cleaner version of New York. They've been doing it since the 90s, actually. Like How I Met Your Mother was also filmed in Canada.
Oh, and they were making fun of Canada all the time.
Yeah. Because like when I moved to New York, I wanted to go to that bar from the TV show, but it just doesn't exist. It's like created after something. They went to a bar like years ago, and the whole set was somewhere in Canada, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there has to be also for example, when they make movies about the 60s or 30s whatsoever, and those movies take place in New York, they need some places that look like New York, but like 60, 70 years earlier. So I can imagine that they take other cities in maybe even other countries, especially in Europe, for example. You have much more this longer lasting buildings that are also more better preserved than in America, where, for example, in Europe, you have these old towns which are literally there for hundreds and maybe even some up to thousands of years, and they're very well preserved. So it's not also, it could be a possibility to record movies in areas like that where you want to depict an older version of New York or any other city.
Yeah.
Well, what's your guys like most favorite movie of all the time so far?
Mhm. Yeah, I don't really. Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to say like I don't have that one movie. It's a couple.
Yeah, or like the top 2, 3. Yeah.
Okay, let's say one each. Okay, so I would throw The Gentleman into the.
Wait, the one on Netflix?
That one was not as good as the original movie.
I was just told like 3 days ago to go and watch the movie because apparently it's really good. So it's on my watch list.
I watched the movie just when it came out, and I was blown away. And I think, I'm not sure, a third time, but I watched it at least twice. It's a really good movie from Guy Ritchie. I watched back in the day a lot of Guy Ritchie movies, and in general, everything that comes from that guy is good.
Okay. I'll try to watch it this weekend. For me, it's like a lot of older Tarantino movies. And I just checked like my top rated movies. I used to be into a lot of like mob movies, so they're quite high up. But for me, it's like The Godfather or Pulp Fiction kind of thing. Like Pulp Fiction is totally messed up, weird movie. And the first time I watched it, I had to stop in the middle. But it has so many like memorable lines that are like really weird, but you can just quote the movie really good. And for me, it was also interesting seeing like how did he shoot the movie, what was important, the consistency through the scenes were quite important. You have certain movies where people don't actually like, they even forget while producing the movie that certain things shouldn't be at a certain place. For example, there was this movie with this Mexican killer, No Country for Old Men. In that movie, there's a store where he buys boots, which is in South America, in the south of the States. And then he moves over the border a couple thousand miles and goes into the same store in Mexico because they totally forgot that that store is supposed to be in America. Sorry, a little rant.
Okay, the next movie I would throw into the race. Well, let's make it maybe not the obvious things. So, well, this one is obvious. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That one would be a Tarantino movie, like you just said. Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I was in Prague back then, and I went into the theater, and it was like this really nice. I think it was like an opera house or something. So watching the movie there was quite enjoyable. But
Okay.
I gotta say, it's one of my less favorites from Tarantino. I think it's a good movie, but like a bad Tarantino movie.
That might be the reason why I like it, because I don't usually like Tarantino.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, like, let me ask another question. In your opinion, what is a movie that has been heavily underestimated, undervalued, which potential hasn't been really fully uncovered? Do you have any ideas?
Okay. Usually those are the movies that are a little bit more difficult, so not as easy the mainstream ones. I would throw in Enemy.
Okay.
Enemy from Jake Gyllenhaal, how he's pronounced.
Yeah, I think
That one
I'm
was
not sure
quite.
if I'm. Okay, sorry.
I don't know. I mean, did you watch it?
I'm trying to think. I remember watching Gyllenhaal's Nightcrawler, which I really liked, but I think the ratings weren't that good with it. Enemy, I'm not sure right now.
As I said with the ratings, usually it is according to the, like, for example, Jake Gyllenhaal is an actor that suits to my taste. So when I have a rating of, let's say, 5 from him, it should be a 7 for me. That's how I calculate it. If I have another actor who is usually acting movies that are according to my taste, I do the calculation, obviously, the other way around, where I subtract from the IMDb votes. But his movies are generally underappreciated, and Enemy is one that I would suggest for people who want to watch something where they have to think a bit more.
Okay, I just put it on my watch list.
He's the producer, right?
No, he's the actor.
But
He's
how
the
can he
actor.
act?
He's also
Yeah.
the Roadhouse that I mentioned earlier is also from
But
him.
if it's anime, isn't it like a cartoon?
No,
Oh, you
Enemy
didn't say?
2017 is not an anime.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, I would go with the answer of older movies that are not from Hollywood. They're underappreciated. They're quite good movies that just didn't get the limelight because they came from other countries. One movie that's already quite famous, Old Boy from South Korea. I think it's like early 2000s.
Yeah, it was
It's a weird movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, him eating that octopus alive, and they had to like re-film the scene, I believe, like 10 times or something. That's a weird thing. But it was good enough that the Hollywood producers redid the whole movie as an American version. And you have that quite often. I think even with like Departed, the original was from Japan or Korea or something.
Yes, I mean, Hollywood is also known for stealing movies or their ideas from other countries. Departed is a very, very good example for that. The original was just, I mean, you could honor it in some way. And I also think that the Hollywood version was really good, actually. And the actors, the cast was perfect. But I still had a bad feeling for not giving credit to the original one.
Yeah. I mean, for example, with Old Boy, I believe the American version came 10 years later or 15 years later, and it was bad. People didn't really watch it. Readings were horrible. And with like a lot of movies where you know the origin movie or the movie's based on another movie, often it makes sense to go and watch the original one because they can be better or have like plot points that didn't make it into the remake.
Mm-hmm. Well, since you mentioned other countries, I could also suggest something from a country that is probably currently not very popular, and it's from Russia, and it was surprisingly good. Major Grom, the Pest Doctor, or Chumnoy Doctor, but that's probably Russian. But it was a really good movie.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
So, brief question. Can I know, like, you have to go out soon? How many minutes can you spare? How long will you have to drive?
Well, let's take 5 more minutes, maybe.
Okay. So, I have many more questions. Maybe we make also our second episode later as a continuation. But like, when talking about movies, it's usually, I mean, we talk a lot about the actors or action movies. Like, therefore, I want to ask you, like, who is your favorite actress?
Actress. So
Can it be an actor?
Well, I mean, like, actor aside, like actress. I mean, you can also just tell me a name and say, okay, because she's hot. I mean, that's also an answer.
but that's also saying a lot about our way of rating it. So we basically just assume we will rate the actress according to her looks, and
it's like a shit test. But yeah, I know, no, like also some, like on the contrary, also some. I know a lot of women like Formula One, and they watch Formula One, and they mainly watch it because they like the guys that look hot, kind of. Like I've seen many women watch Formula One, and I'm surprised.
Okay, I had to think about it. Like, I did like the Angelina Jolie movies as a kid, but I'm gonna be honest, it's most like because she was hot. Natalie Portman has like some insane performances. She was good as a kid in Leon the Professional, and even later on with the other movies. And I didn't even like watch Star Wars, so she would be a good pick, I think.
I want to be a bit more unconventional. I would probably say Kim Basinger or something
I've
like
never
this.
heard that name.
Yeah, I gotta Google her.
From older movies, she played in movies like LA Confidential, and in general, like more in movies from the earlier years. No, she's. I don't know if she's still acting, but the last I know from her was from earlier movies. Just because I like the movies more that she was in, so I mentioned her. I don't know, like hard to say.
Do you guys have any favorite child actor? I mean, it can be also a couple years old.
No, I would have to Google people.
Well, the thing is, I know how they turn out to become. So there are some actors, but I don't like what they became.
Okay, wait.
I'm not talking about like maybe who they turned into eventually, but like and the movies they did,
Yeah, I got a good one. The kid that played I See Dead People. What was it? With Bruce Willis. Yeah. That was some stellar performance from a kid.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, that's gonna be a weird transition, but like, is there like, do you guys have any favorite pet actor in any movie, or like, is there people who even rate these kinds of things?
Pet actor? You mean like animal?
Like cat, like dog, bird, I don't know.
Does Godzilla count?
Good one.
You mean like actual living actor pet?
Like, no, actual living. I mean, I think it was more the old times, not like when everything is animated now.
I got a weird one. There was this game based on cat, a Stray in a dystopian world, and they actually put like the whole 3D scanning things on the cat's body to record how a cat walks, jumps, and does things. So I would go with that acting cat for the game Stray.
Okay.
I have to pass on that one because I don't remember any animal names or movies with animal focus.
I think like animals in movies are really big in children movies because the only ones I can think of are from my childhood when I watched like the one dog that was forgotten at home and then moved like through 5 states looking for his family and finally finding the kids and stuff like. But I'm not sure what the names of the dogs were, and I don't even know what kind of dogs they were. I believe like golden retrievers or something.
Yeah, back in the day, movies were a little bit more experimental in that way. They revolved around dogs, sometimes even around a car that could act on its own and things like that. So,
the golf.
Yeah, I think I forgot the name, but there was a self-driving car with artificial intelligence.
You mean Knight Rider?
No, I meant really the Golf.
Herbie,
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We had a great episode so far, and it's very unfortunate that the time has run out already. But I think maybe we can aim for a second continuation with like maybe anime as a topic next time. Before I close it off completely, I want to give each of you maybe like 30 seconds, 60 seconds to give a final message out to the audience. It could be like maybe about your favorite actor or a movie they should watch, or maybe just a quote from someone, or maybe something that got you into movies. Just a final statement.
Okay. First, you need to send me your IMDb ratings. I want to see what's high on yours. And for me, people should watch The Raid 1 and 2. I just rewatched them, and they're insanely good action movies.
You just watched them?
Rewatched them. I saw the second one. Yeah, I saw the second one in the cinemas when it came out, and I rewatched it. I think 2 months ago.
Yeah, because I'd be surprised. Those are like classics because they are completely going against the too much artificial fighting, and they are more with the actors in fighting, also according to my taste. Yeah. Well, I hope I didn't interrupt you. My final...
No.
Are you...
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay. Yeah, then my final thing would also be in a similar way to watch, especially the movies around the 2000s to 2010s. I like those because those were like the peak before it became, in my opinion, a bit too political. So you could just lean back and watch a movie without having second thoughts or messages in between the lines or in any sense. So it was just about the entertainment. Those movies are, from the production perspective, in the like developed and refined stage, but not that far as we currently have, where they have movies as bigger, economical and political, and in a much, a movie is not just a movie anymore. So those years were quite entertaining, and there are obviously a lot of original ideas and hidden gems in the earlier years, even dating back to even the 60s. As long as an idea is good, I think it's worth watching. And yeah, I'm always up to finding new, interesting movies.
All right, guys. Thank you for your time, and the audience, they can also interact with this episode. As far as I know, there's a Q&A function on Spotify, at least. I don't know how it's on other platforms. But thanks for your time. It was great. It was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to the next time we meet. And until then, enjoy your day.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. You too. See you then.